7 Wonders of Canada. Sleeping Giant. The Sleeping Giant is a formation of mesas and sills on Sibley Peninsula which resembles a giant lying on its back when viewed from the west to north-northwest section of Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada. As one moves southward along the shoreline toward Squaw Bay, the Sleeping Giant starts to separate into its various sections. Most distinctly in the view from the cliffs at Squaw Bay, the giant appears to have an Adam's apple. The formation is part of Sleeping Giant Provincial Park. Its dramatic steep cliffs are among the highest in Ontario, 250 meters. The southernmost point is known as Thunder Cape, depicted by many early Canadian artists such as William Armstrong. Niagara Falls. Niagara Falls is the collective name for 3 waterfalls that straddle the international border between Canada and the United States, more specifically, between the province of Ontario and the state of New York. They form the southern end of the Niagara Gorge. Located on the Niagara River, which drains Lake Erie into Lake Ontario, the combined falls form the highest flow rate of any waterfall in North America that has a vertical drop of more than 165 feet. From largest to smallest, the 3 waterfalls are the Horseshoe Falls, the American Falls and the Bridal Veil Falls. The Horseshoe Falls lies on the border of the United States and Canada, with the American Falls entirely on the United States side, separated by Goat Island. The smaller Bridal Veil Falls are also on the United States side, separated from the other waterfalls by Luna Island. Bay of Fundy. The Bay of Fundy is a bay between the Canadian provinces of New Brunswick and Nova Scotia, with a small portion touching the state of Maine. It has the highest tidal range in the world. The Guinness Book of World Records 1975 declared that Burnt Coat Head, Nova Scotia has the highest tides in the world. Portions of the Bay of Fundy, Shepparton Bay, and Minas Basin form one of 6 Canadian sites in the Western Hemisphere Shorebird Reserve Network, and are classified as a hemispheric site. It is administered by the provinces of New Brunswick and Nova Scotia, and the Canadian Wildlife Service, and is managed in conjunction with Ducks Unlimited Canada and the Nature Conservancy of Canada. Nahanni National Park Reserve. Nahanni National Park Reserve in the Nailicho region of the Northwest Territories, Canada, approximately 500 kilometers west of Yellowknife. Protects a portion of the Mackenzie Mountains natural region. The centerpiece of the park is the South Nahanni River. 4 noteworthy canyons reaching 1,000 m in depth, called 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th Canyon, line this spectacular whitewater river. The name Nahanni comes from the indigenous Dean language name for the area, Nahadihi, which means River of the Land of the Naha people, who some now speculate may have been the ancestors of the modern-day Navajo people. Northern Lights. An aurora, sometimes referred to as a polar light or northern light, is a natural light display in the sky, predominantly seen in the high-latitude Arctic and Antarctic regions. Auroras are produced when the magnetosphere is sufficiently disturbed by the solar wind that the trajectories of charged particles in both solar wind and magnetospheric plasma, mainly in the form of electrons and protons, precipitate them into the upper atmosphere, thermosphere or exosphere, where their energy is lost. The Rockies. The Canadian Rockies are the eastern part of the Canadian Cordillera, which is a system of multiple ranges of mountains which runs from the Canadian prairies to the Pacific coast. The Canadian Rockies mountain system comprises the southeastern part of this system, lying between the interior plains of Alberta and northeastern British Columbia on the east to the Rocky Mountain Trench of BC on the west. The southern end borders Idaho and Montana of the USA. In geographic terms, the boundary is at the Canada-US border, but in geological terms it might be considered to be at Marias Pass in northern Montana. The northern end is at the Liard River in northern British Columbia. Cabot Trail. The Cabot Trail is a highway and scenic roadway in northern Victoria County and Inverness County on Cape Breton Island in Nova Scotia, Canada. The route measures 298 kilometers in length and completes a loop around the northern tip of the island, passing along and through the Cape Breton Highlands. It is named after the explorer John Cabot, who landed in Atlantic Canada in 1497, although most historians agree his landfall likely took place in Newfoundland and not Cape Breton Island. Thank you for watching.